Welcome, everybody. Before we start learning chapter 36, just something that we learned in Tanya today. People may be, the Tanya that we're learning at this time, the Alter Rebbe is explaining the case why the study of the Hasidus is necessary for the for proper learning of Torah and for the fulfillment of mitzvahs. And he's been explaining that really only when Torah and mitzvahs, the commandments and the study of Torah are done with the proper intent, with the proper emotion, then it has impact. And in today's Tanya, in the footnote, it explains that the emotions in Atzilus are uh, harmonized when we do a mitzvah, not just, and then we study Torah, not, but specifically with intent. Then it makes an impact in Atzilus, and the emotions are harmonized. Now let's speak practically. People are concerned that right now, due to certain things in the world, the price of potassium, phosphorus, and nitrogen, which is fertilizer, has gone up so much that it will cost like maybe 4 times more for a farmer to produce food for next year. So the prices of food will go up. And then that's not a good thing, because food should be abundantly available for everybody. Nobody should be hungry. People should have good nutrition. So what can we do? So today's Tanya gives us the solution. When we do Torah and we study Torah and we do the commandments with proper intent, then that causes the negative emotions, not the negative emotions, the strict emotions, to be harmonized with kindness. In fact, the strict emotions in the world, which cause judgment in this world, when they're harmonized, they actually flip over to be a greater form of kindness than uh, than kindness itself. Because when you deliver, for example, when you deliver rain, when you deliver a flood, it washes away all the fields. But when you deliver drop by drop, in other words, it's a strictness, it's a withholding, then it creates much better crops. So strictness, divine strictness, when it's harmonized, it will be much even better than kindness itself. So therefore, we need to um, encourage the study of Chassidus, like we're doing now. That will give us a proper intent when we do mitzvahs and when we study Torah, and we need to encourage the study of the like Kitzur Shulchan Aruch's laws that will inspire people to get the commandments done. And that's just an introduction to today, and it's an appropriate introduction because we're going to learn about superharmony today. So there is emotional intelligence in of Jacob, of Yaakov Avinu, but his son Yosef, who took that to a whole new level. Yosef was the one that saved the entire world in the time of famine. He saved the with his abilities. He saved the entire world, and um, Jacob was a great educator. He was able, all his children remained faithful to Orthodox Judaism, unlike what his father achieved and unlike what his grandfather achieved. So he had a great emotional intelligence in education, and he would tell the truth to kids. This is where you are now. This is where you should be in the future. And they were receptive. However, they still were fighting, right? They even wanted to kill Joseph. They were fighting. So Joseph mastered the emotional intelligence of his father and took it to a whole new level. And his sons weren't even fighting, even though the younger one was going to be more um, prominent than the older one. The older one didn't mind. He dealt with sibling rivalry, and there wasn't any, because he had emotional intelligence, educational intelligence on a whole new level, and he embodied the emotion of Yesod, which is the attachment, um, and appropriate attachment and delivery to and connection to others. So he embodied the healthy attachment to other human beings, and was a master of that. So he was able to really understand everybody where they're holding, and that's why he was able to deal with his brothers in a very intelligent way. He knew when to be strict, when to be kind. And let's start reading that inside. Elo told us Yaakov Yosef. It's written in the Torah. These are the children of Yaakov. It's Joseph. Joseph is really a child of Jacob. In fact, in the fact that he embodies his idea and actually takes it to a whole new level. Hu b'chinas yisod. This is the idea of the foundation, which is attachment. B'chinas tzaddik elyon. He is considered. He's called the higher tzaddik. Now, Yosef was a tzaddik. He had a very difficult. He was tested in the area of um, promiscuity. His masters, when he was in Egypt, he had a master, and his wife tried to seduce him, and he prevailed, and he wasn't seduced, and that's why it's one of the reasons he's called a tzaddik, a righteous person, and he's considered the higher tzaddik. Nikra Vav Zeira, and also another code name for Yosef is the small Vav. Jacob represents the big Vav. Yosef is the small Vav. Ovirat Varim, the meaning of this is like this. Yodua, it's known, Be'inyan ki kol, Bashamayim va'aretz. Part of the prayers, we say everything in heaven and the earth. The Targumay and the Aramaic translation to those words, which that translation explains a little more, the Achid Bashmaya, that is all united in the heavens and earth. Shubachinas Er Shefa the Yisayid Tzaddik. This, when we say in the prayers, Kol Bashamayim, the word Kol, everything in the heavens and earth, the word everything is really a code word for the energy from Yisayid Tzaddik Elyon, from the attribute of attachment from the higher righteous man Yosef, Hanikra Chai Olamim, and another code name is the life of the world. So twice in davening, we have in the daily prayers, we have Chai Ha'olamim, life of the world. Well, that also is Yosef. Just like Yosef saved the whole world from famine, his attribute is the idea of giving life to the world. Valderach Marshall, let's give you a metaphor. Somebody who understands a deep intellectual concept for himself, doesn't have the power to bring this intellect as to deliver outside to a receiver. So basically, he has the core idea, the way it's in himself, but he's not able to deliver. But somebody who's able to bring it out, to deliver it to the receivers, who are nikra bechinas yisod, he is yisod. Hu nikra kol da'achid, and he is that's what it means, having everything in the palm of his hand. Called the Achid, he brings everything together, because what he's able to do is able to deliver. That it comes from the giver to the receiver. It also says that a planted light for the tzaddik, because Yosef is the tzaddik, the righteous one, is able to deliver to others. So it's a planted life. Be'er kitov, and it says regarding light, titov, good. Shebechinas Yisod nikra tov. So the another code name for Yisod is good. So we have the word call, because whenever you see these words, call, everything, it refers to Yisod. Chai, Hailamim, the life of the world, refers to Yisod. Tzaddik refers to Yisod. Yisod refers to Yisod. And Tov, goodness. So if somebody has a name, Tuvia, he probably has an ability to connect to people, because Tov refers to Yisod, the attribute of attachment. Kamai, let's go further. Kamai. The nature of good people is to give goodness to others, dafka specifically. And that's what Yisoid does. Yisoid enjoys social attachment. Yisoid, Nikra Tzadik, and that's why Yisoid, the foundation, is called a tzaddik, a righteous person. V'toiv, he's called good. Amal tzaddik, say to the righteous person, ki toiv, he's good. V'tzadik tzedakah zehiv, and a righteous person loves to do righteous things. Lach yisroch shafalim, he loves to give life to the lowly people, to lift up their spirits. Like Yosef. Yosef used to, even when he was in jail for an unlimited term, he was going around and he was saying hello to everybody and lifting anybody's spirit if their face wasn't looking happy that day. Like it's written, Tov Hashem lakol. Hashem is good to all. So we have that again. Tov LaHashem. Hashem is good to all. It's referring to Yesod, the attribute of Yesod. But have gematria Zayin, and if you take the gematria, the numerical value of good, it is 17. Shehu, that's the same value as the word and the name of God, which is Aleph Hey Vav Hey, which in Hebrew means the creator, brings people into existence. That's exactly what it means. I will bring things into existence. Rosh Hashanah. Oh, this the ace. This is the Rosh Hashanah of ace, which is Aleph, Hashemayim Hey, and the Haaretz, the land. So in the beginning, Bereshis Bar Elokim Es Hashemayim Ves Haaretz. Well, there's a code name for God's name, because the first letters of those words, Es Hashemayim Ves Haaretz, refer to Aleph Vav and Aleph Hey Vav Hey, which is a code name to God bringing everything into existence.
And it's also Gematria 17.
And to Gematria 17, which is a code.
1 and 5 and 6 and 5 is 17.
17. So anytime, so 17 is a code for Yesod. So God was creating the world with Yesod. This is the same idea as we said before, that He encompasses everything in heaven of the earth. So the attribute of Yesod, we've seen all the code names. When we pray, we'll be able to recognize them. But it's the idea of attachment. His kashrus means a knot. From a giver to a receiver. Like it's known. And this is explained in another place. Another code name for Yesod is Shalom, peace and completeness. Another one, Ubris, covenant. So we have Tov, Shalom, Bris, Tzaddik. So when you see the word covenant, you know it's referring to Yesod. When you see Shalom, peace, it's referring to Yesod. Right? Like we learned a while back that the last blessing of the 18 blessings in the Shemona Esrei is Sim Shalom, give peace, and we know that that blessing is corresponding to Yesod. Now, Pinchas was the one that stood up for the purity, for the correct moral behavior, and God said to him, I'm going to give him a covenant of peace. So both Bris and both Shalom refer to Yesod. So Pinchas got attachment to Yesod. Like it's written in another place. What's the difference between Shebein Pnimis Yesod? That's all. The inner attribute of attachment of Atzilus is Yosef. The external attribute of attachment is Noach Tzadik Tamim. Noach also saved the world, but he didn't save the generation. He just saved humanity and his family. So he was a tzaddik because he didn't follow the wicked ways of the local people. So he was always tempted and he didn't follow it. So he's called righteous. Just like Yosef was tempted and he passed. But Noach was an external aspect of Yesod. He became the embodiment of the external aspect of Yesod. So he saved the world, but not everybody. but Yosef actually saved the humanity from famine. So both of them are represented by a small vav, kibbutz vasifas shefa, because it's a kibbutz gathering together, vasifas bringing together light, v'shefa sustenance, shel midas the Yaakov of Yaakov. So basically, he takes the idea of Jacob, the idea of harmony, the idea of truth, and he makes it a totally deliverable package. Zeu Ela told us Yaakov Yosef. And this it means that the children of Yaakov are Yosef, because Yosef is his main prodigy, which was able to capture his idea. Bechinas Tulda Shel Amides, which means, in other words, what the motions of Jacob give birth to. Alidei Yesod, it's all through Yesod. Yosef, it's through Yosef Dafka. Shu Erzul Tzaddik, he's the light that's planted for the Tzaddik. Chai Elamim, for the 18,000, 18 worlds, or 18,000 worlds. Chai Elamim, the life of the worlds, right? Life of the worlds. He is the life of the worlds. Tzaddik Katamar, and it's also written in another place, the tzaddik, the righteous one, will be like a date palm, and then Ke'erez Balavanu, like a cedar tree in Lebanon. Meaning to say growth. There's growth. Shesherish Yisod Zah. What's that code? When it says the tzaddik is like a date palm, like a cedar tree in Lebanon, it's actually a code, Kabbalah code for Yisod Zah, the emotion of Yisod of the small faces of Atzilus. But Yisod, the Arachanpim, is really in a bigger Yisod that's behind it in Arachanpin, in big faces, Vatikim, and the old days, the higher days. In other words, in Seder Shtarshalos, there is a connection to something higher than intellect. So regular Yesod, like the date tree, is lower than intellect, fed by intellect. But the cedar tree is an even bigger tree, the gigantic tree, that is higher than intellect. Because one Yesod is directly connected to the higher Yesod. Because the beginning is wedged in the end. Yesod nikra siyuma the gufa. Yesod is considered the end of the body. It's the attachment part of the body, but it's connected with the beginning of the body. And the main pleasure when a person takes upon something upon themselves, the main pleasure they get is when they complete the task. So too, when the body delivers the ability to have a child, the pleasure is in the completion, in that organ of the body, that causes pleasure because a person has pleasure from completing their task. Kal Sashefa, the dafka, specifically that. It's also known in the creation of the world. It says God finished creating. Elokim, on the sixth day, going into the seventh day, he finished the creation. Vayechal, we already know that everything, Vayechal, is a code name for Yesod. So he completed everything, and that was pleasurable to God, because that in the completion, that's where pleasure is. Vahainu, and also Yosef Yafater. This is also a spiritual reason why Yosef was very good looking. Me'en Shufrei de Yaakov, and he looked similar to Jacob. He looked like his father. Why? Because they're related. Shebechinas Tiferes de Zoh, his father is an embodiment of the emotion of beauty, of balance, of the small faces. Shufrei de Yaakov, and something interesting. So Yosef physically looked like Jacob, and he looked very good. And the face of Jacob, Me'en Shufrei de Adam Kadma, well, his face looked like the original man. Literally, he looked like Adam, the first man. But Adam is really an embodiment of Arach Anpin, Va'atika Kedish, no, Va'adam Kadmein. Arachanpin, big faces, and even the original creation of man in spirituality. So Joseph looked like Yaakov, looked like the first man, Adam. Masha Kosovel told this Hainu Bechinas Vavktana Dezor. And by the way, it says these are the children of Jacob. This is Vavktsoves Dezor. The 6 emotions of Zor. Shekol Kol Echad Mevav. How each one has a mini emotion is divided into 6. So 6 times 6 is 36. Gematria Ela. It's the same gematria as Ela. Now we don't make up our own gematrias. Gematrias when in the Torah sees two things are connected, the gematria then helps us to see that there's a connection between we see another connection between them, the fact that the numerical number is the same. So Ela, these are is 36, which represents how the 6 emotions have 6 inside them. 36 times 6 is 36. Ach ein tilda beloy teishefes meichim chadashim. There's no such thing as having a baby without getting new brains from a higher level, ma'ava v'ema, from the father and the mother. Alidei bechinas hagdolas the keseh Chabad. We first have to, the brain has to become more active, which is the keseh, the crown of the brain, which is like the skull and liquid around the brain, the Chabad, insight, right brain, bina, comprehension, left brain, das, focus, and end brain, and behind the, and so what happens is, in order to have babies, the brain is also very much becomes active, and it actually has to go to a higher state, a pleasure state, a higher state. So both are connected. The part of the body which actually does the connection at the end feels pleasure, and the brain feels pleasure, and the brain has to come to a higher state of existence, a higher pleasure state of existence, in order to bring down the great energy to create a new child. Shabazah. But Ali Debekina told us Kesach Shabazah, which is in Zah canal, like we've mentioned before. So the intellect of the emotions of the small faces has to be activated in order to activate Yisoid. And by the way, what we've been teaching, especially we started to teach it in chapter 33, is how to connect a lot of details in order to one holistic picture. And you can do that with this as well, he's saying. Shub mi yisayid the malchus da ein seif, from the ability of attachment, from the expression of the infinite, it connects down ad bechinas yitzayid za, all the way to the ability of attachment of za, of small faces, which is God as he presents himself as a personality to us. Valderach hanal beza bechlal shu bechinas sof olam ein seif. Like we've mentioned before, that there's a way of looking small faces that it's really the end of the infinite, and afterwards creation begins. The limited creation begins after Zah. And it says Shlomo, by the way, also connected to Yisrael. He spoke from the cedar tree in Lebanon. What is a cedar tree in Lebanon? The code he means the cedar tree in Lebanon means the pleasure, the essential pleasure, simple pleasure, in the essence of the infinite. When Hashem had a simple desire, Ana Emlech, of I want to express myself, I want to be a leader. Ad bechinas ezev. Now Shlomo also spoke till the ezev, till the hyssop tree, which is oregano, which is a small, tiny tree, asher bekir, which grows in the wall. Shubechinas vav zira. This represents the small vav, the katnas that you say, the small vav of Yesod Zah, of the attribute of Yesod of small faces, behispashtuse, biskashruse, b'malchus, as it gives delivery and it's connected to the malchus, which is the wall. That's why we say the oregano growing in the wall, which really in spiritual worlds, now you want to be able to see spirituality. When the oregano is growing in a wall, the wall represents malchus and the oregano represents the side of Zah, the hyssop, right? It's also written he turned around to the wall to pray. We're supposed to pray by a wall because the wall is an embodiment of malchus, of God speaking. V'chein nase v'chein nase na aliyah kir. Whoa, v'chein, and also nase na, I will please make aleh unto her kir, a tree. What is that? Which one is that? Malachim. Malachim base. Malachim base Dalad Yud. If I search that now, will it come up on the screen?
I have it. 1 second. You might find it faster than me, but I have Malachim here, base Dalad Yud. Malachim base Dalad Yud. It says over here that this is the making the room in the attic for Elisha. That she says Nasa no Aliyas Kir Katana. Right? Isn't that, does it say we Dalad base Dalad Yud? Yeah. V'nasim lo sham mita v'shulchan v'kisa b'nare v'haya b'vei aleinu yaser shama. So
when the prophet will visit, we'll make a little place for him that he could stay.
Right. So let us make a small walled attic and a place there for him, a bed, a table, a lamp, a chair, and a lamp. So whenever he comes to us, he could turn in there. So the way it's actually printed in this Tanakh I have here.
So she wanted to pray over there because the kir represents Malchus, which is the idea of praying.
Right. There's only one yud in the Chumash. I don't know. They printed it here with two yuds, but okay.
Okay, so we're back to 53. Okay. Shubichinas Malchus, which this refers to Malchus, which is the attribute of Malchus. A commission calls it Zayar, like it's written in the Zayar. And this is what it means, the code behind when it says the tzaddik is like a date, which means that it should go up. The salik la'ain shnin, the Adam Kadmon, should go up all the way to the 70 years of Adam Kadmon, which represents 70 years, represents the 70 complete emotions of the original man. Sham ke'eretz balvan yishke, because over there he's going to be like a cedar tree in Lebanon, connecting to the infinite Vidal, meaning to say that it's basically a fast track elevator, you say. But since the end is wedged in the beginning, you can make a attachment all the way to the essence of God, going higher and higher. And these are just from a hyssop to a date palm to a gigantic cedar tree. It's like growth, right? V'gam oid mavur b'makamach. It's also explained further in another place. Yosef nikra same imay. Yosef was a orphan from his mother, Aviv, not his father. His mother died young, so he was an orphan from his mother and not his father. But there was a spiritual reason for this. Rosh Tevis Yosem, the Rosh Tevis of Yosem is Yafet Tayar, Yud Tav, Yafet Tayar. He looks, his shape looks nice. Ve'inyan Yosem Me'ime Dahainu. And why was he an orphan from his mother? Why? What was the spiritual meaning behind this? He said, because the attribute of attachment from comprehension is short. What do we mean short? When the comprehension gives birth to emotions, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect from comprehension to emotions. It gives birth to emotions, but when the emotions are born, there's a disconnect. Like we find, like we see clearly, when an emotion is when the emotions are excited, the intellect disappears, goes up. And that's why we say that comprehension only goes down to the emotion of Hoid, which is, recognizing your truth. The most you're going to get out of a debate, if somebody, somebody proves logically that they're correct, the most that they're going to get is you're right. You're not going to have the opposite person usually getting excited how the person who won them was so right and I'm so passionate about. You're not going to change over the other person to passion, which would be Yesod. As far as you're going to get is Hoid, which is you're right. Like the doctors that used to smoke. You shouldn't smoke, it's not healthy. You're right. Right? There's a disconnect. Comprehension doesn't reach all the way to Yesod, to attachment. Rak at bechinas haida, he can only get to agreement. Sheba metzad seichel, which the agreement is born because he's proven intellectually to be wrong. Because it doesn't get to the actual Yesod attachment of Zah, because Yesod is really a deep binding of the heart, deep essential knot. It's basically making a knot to the idea. That is powered by Yesod of the insight. Insight remains connected to emotions, and in fact, Chachma is connected with vision. A person can be seeing something and feel emotional impact at the same time. Basically an essential connection with the concept, even before it comes to comprehension. This is the meaning of the words, my heart saw a lot of wisdom. And in fact, we've been learning the whole time that how do you get to the ability of the heart seeing wisdom, which is even a greater vision than the eyes, a deeper understanding than the brains. How do you get there? So you get there through the mind of comprehension. When you put a lot of effort, this activates, there's going to be a disconnect between comprehension and feeling, but it's going to activate the heart that is going to see, the heart is going to be activated to be able to see a lot of wisdom. The heart is able to pick up things that the eyes are not able to pick up. Certain waves in the air, it can pick them up. And so basically the heart seeing truth, the physical basar and the physical flesh heart, besides dafka, that's specifically connected to Yesod Zah, the attribute of attachment and foundation of the personality of a person is of Zah, of small faces specifically. So emotional intelligence of the heart is connected with the attribute of attachment. Being focused on something, getting real focus on something will naturally bring to emotional intelligence. And by the way, what allows a heart, what allows our heart to do this, it's the attribute of Yesod. The attribute of Yesod, of attachment, will activate the heart to be able to see wisdom. So if you're let's say you want to be an expert, let's say you want to be an expert on a subject, so pay attention to it. And then you're going to be able to notice what's true, what's not true. It's going to come. You're going to get an awareness of what is real, what is not real by paying attention. Because your study is about paying attention and staying in attention. It's written in the book of the Ram Nehemah, with the eye of the intellect, everything could be seen. Because the ability of attachment from insight is much longer than the ability of attachment of comprehension. And from the inside of from the attachment, from the side of insight, it goes all the way to the actual emotion of attachment. Even when comprehension leaves. Al-Kain, therefore, Yosef, Nikra Yisayim, was called an orphan, Me'imah, from his mother, because because his speciality of Yesod did not have that constant connection to the mother, but yes to the father. He was not an orphan from his father. Etc. And this is explained at length in other places. And this is also the meaning of Eila, which is 36. These are the children of Yaakov. He was actually the drop of that comes from out of the organ of attachment, but also spiritually from insight. Who Yosef, and this is Yosef. Yosef embodies this Yisod. He embodies the spiritual ability of attachment, and that's why he was able to save the whole world. Is an embodiment of this aspect of God. Yisod Zah, the attachment of Zah, Chula, etc. Vidal, and this is enough for the understanding. If a person thinks about this, they will understand wonderful things about Joseph. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Rabbi Chirik.
Yeah, it's great. Now remember 36. The 36 is Lamed Vav. So the Vav represents attachments. The letter Vav.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for taking us on this journey. We got to write a book on the practical day-to-day. Obviously, it's intended to be a practical book, but for us, on our level of our level of understanding.
Two practical things. If a person has attention to something, they activate emotional intelligence. By having a deep attention to something, they activate the heart being able to see the truth. Like we say for chinuch, it's important that a person thinks half an hour about the education of children. What's that going to do? That's going to activate your ability to have, that's going to activate your ability to have proper emotional intelligence for the children. The thinking, the time.
Oh, you're saying that it's not so much that the 30 minutes, that therefore I will come up with a smart idea on what to do to mechanech them. It's the 30 minutes is going to put me on a different plane of relationship with the children.
Yes, because it's going to activate the yesod. It's going to activate the high heart being able to see. So then you're going to be effective in your interactions. It's not so much about your activism. It's about being effective. To be effective, when the heart needs to be, the yesod of the heart has to be awakened. How do you get that awakened? Well, that's attention, mental attention, mental attention, because that's what he was just saying now, that the insight from the brain, it has direct connection to the to yesod, which is at healthy attachment, effective attachment, successful attachment. You're going to be able to be a supplier to them if you put the mental time to pay attention, a half an hour a day.
So the half an hour a day is not the time that you're interacting with the kids. It's the time of contemplating on this, that attention.
Yes. And then when you do interact, that's when you're going to be successful, because you activated your natural God-given ability to have emotional intelligence.
So since we're on this subject, so what should that person do? He should say after Shacharis, after breakfast, he's going to sit down and just for half an hour, he's just going to think about the chinuch of children.
Well, what he should say is there's a minute to say the Psalms of the Psalm which is one higher than the age of the child. So let's say a child is 15 years old, so we would say Psalm 16 because they're in their 16th year. And as you're saying the psalm, praying to God that you be successful in educating them of each child, you're actually mentally attaching to them.
Oh, so you would say that each one of the Psalms every day for each kid?
Each of the child, for each child.
And that would take you to 30 minutes, or it's a start.
Well, it's a start.
Okay, what else? Now that I'm looking for more things to do.
You need to think, where are they now? Where should they be? What is a proper intervention to bring them to where should they be? What is the most crucial? You have to decide, like, what is the most crucial thing right now for them? Is it something within my abilities? What is the most, like the Frierdiker Rebbe, it also is a master of Yesod from the older spirits of all the Rebbeim. The previous Rebbe was Yesod, and it also connects with his great pen abilities. By the way, if you write, you activate Yesod as well, because Yesod is a pen is also spiritually a device which actually is even shaped in the idea of a tool of the same as our pipe of speaking to people. A pen is also a pipe, but it's a small vav. It actually looks like a small vav. So when you decide to put pen to paper, you activate Yesod, and the paper is malchus. Malchus is the expression. It's like the wall, like we said before. So when you start writing, you activate your Yesod, and that's what we see by the Frierdiker Rebbe. He used to do a lot of writing. He said his friend, he wrote down all the stories that we have now from many generations, were all written down by him. He did the interviews and he wrote them down. So when you write, you activate that ability. You can actually, a person can actually heal emotions through pen therapy, because the person's subconscious ideas leak into their handwriting. And there's people that study this and they can see what's leaking. They can see if a person can keep a secret or won't keep a secret, because what a person's subconsciously thinking will leak into the way they shape the words, the letters. So then once a person realizes that a character flaw from one of them, I'll give you just an example. When you write like cool or something, does a person close the O's or they open? Do they fully close the O's when they're writing? So if it opens up, it could be that they don't keep secrets. They speak too much, right? Character flaw. So how do you do? You force yourself to close the O's when you're writing cool, and every time you write the O's or the A's, you force yourself to close them, keeping in mind that you need to keep your mouth, closed. Not always you don't need to be speaking about everything, and that will actually change a person's character. So by writing, a person will connect from your side to all the way to the core of the soul, because you activate the core of the soul. The same thing, behavior. Behavior connects with your side. So by choosing to behave differently than a person's character flaw, it will activate the core of the core of your side, the way a person is in big faces, the way they are in Adam Kadmon, the original man, and they can connect up with their original template of creation and recreate themselves. So by behavior and by writing, and even why the way they write, the way they shape the words, they can activate the deepest aspects of the soul,
which will promote or provoke a change in them.
well, absolutely will provoke a change in them, because he activated your side. So what could you do when in regards to education? So it's thinking of paying attention, saying the Psalms, but also thinking what is the most important thing. In other words, when you bombard a person with more than one thing to change, they won't be able to handle it. It only needs to be one at a time. You need to choose the most important thing that this child needs to achieve in their life right now, and only aim for that one thing. That's what the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, writes. So you need to evaluate what are different flaws this individual child has at this point in time, or how does he need help, and then, well, what intervention can I do? Maybe my intervention is say tell him. Maybe it's not within my power, or maybe there is something I can do within my power. How is it going to be effective? Well, when you spend time, the Frierdiker Rebbe writes, spend time thinking, then the delivery will be most appropriate. And when the receiver sees that you spent time thinking about something, they will have more trust that you got it right, and rightly so. Rightly so, because you put in the time, then you activated the side, and the emotional intelligence is going to be correct, and the heart is going to be aware. So these are practical tools, which is sort of like telling us without telling us in this chapter.
Wow. Okay.
This is a beautiful chapter. It's a beautiful chapter to go over and over again, especially anybody who wants to activate their deep emotional intelligence.
So
Parenting.
there's also comes up from this that it's the Rebbe Shab's guidance for parenting is in the quiet.
Frierdiker Rebbe's.
But he quotes it from his father, from the Rebbe Rashab.
Oh yeah, okay.
That the answer is really in getting quiet. It's the thinking about it, the quiet thinking. You won't need. Today, people are in the mode of taking courses on parenting and hiring parenting coaches and all kinds of stuff like that. The key is just to return back to the simplicity of just, if a person is contemplative about their child, the answers will come.
The answers will come. Yeah, the heart will be awakened. So you don't need. Well, it's nice to learn from other people, but really, for really effective parenting, a person needs to quieten down and just attach mentally, and the answers will come, because their superpowers of the heart will be activated.
Right, and the answer is right. The answer is not just the thing, the idea. The answer is in the connection that will become possible through having done that contemplation.
Right.
And that can't be substituted by
education. Exactly, because he just said comprehension won't help.
Wow.
Comprehension won't help. Educating and parenting classes don't help because comprehension only goes to height. The most a person can get from the classes is you're right, but he won't be able to do anything with those classes. The only thing useful is at least he's thinking.
Right. And if the parent then tries to implement the suggestions of the class therapist, counselor, whatever it is, it's not going to work. It's not going to connect with the child because it's not coming from that place of Yesod.
Yeah, he has to put them enough time focusing, and then if he activated Yesod, then it's going to work. But if it's just comprehension, ain't going to work.
So really, if we wanted to help ourselves first, we got to help ourselves first. But I'm saying then to help other people would be you just make a 30-minute of quiet place time. People would come, like people go to daven. There's a lot of hustle and bustle. You have like a quiet space. Everyone get like a table and maybe a pen and paper, and you could just check in for 30 minutes and just sit there.
Yeah, pen and paper will be good because that's in line with your site.
Wow, that'd be incredible. If you could start in a Jewish community, a large room with a bunch of small tables, pen and paper, and the door would say 30 minutes of chinuch contemplation room. People just could come in, just sit.
Yeah, you know what? Where a lot of my solutions get figured out when I write to the Rebbe upon, so I have to put pen to paper and I have to summarize the issues that are going on, but that also summarizes for myself,
Right.
and that also clarifies what is priority and what is secondary because I sat down to write it down. So giving a report to the Rebbe on your doing is actually therapeutic on the person themselves because they're activating your site that's now going to have a super emotional intelligence to the situation. So the actual act of writing is actually already a salvation in its own right.
So why would a person since it's so effective, why would a person avoid that? Either in the contemplation, the focus, the attention, what was the word you used? Attention and contemplation for their children or for themselves in writing a letter?
Right, themselves writing right. Well, both. It's all your side. This one is being effective.
Right. So why would a person constantly try to avoid that? Like,
well, because they have to activate a deeper aspect of themselves. It's like me and the super me. You know, like Chitonius Yesod and Pnimis Yesod. It's a very big thing. Like I'm going to shut everything out, and I'm going to now connect to Pnimis Yesod, and I'm going to be a different myself. It's a lot of effort. It's like it looks like I'm going to be climbing a wall or something.
So then a person gets busy, avoids it, doesn't write the letter, doesn't think about the kids, tries to deal with superficial solutions because he's avoiding that deeper experience.
It's only the superficial me that's doing all these things. But now I'm going to have the deep me being activated. And how do I stop? And how do I stop the superficial? Everything's running. How am I going to stop the superficial me in order to make deep me now? I'm not going to get anything done, right? So that's why people avoid it. But the answer is, well, you first of all, it doesn't need to be half an hour. Start with 5 minutes, and you're going to be more effective. I think that's what these guys mean when these CEOs say, "Oh, they do meditation every day." What are they saying? They have a lot of workers, right? So they only shine when they're the most effective. So they're thinking about, well, how can I be the most effective? I must meditate. What is meditation? Paying attention. So they have to affect the Yesod. They have to awaken their Yesod, the great salesmen, and they need to be able to connect to their people if they want to be effective. So that's why they do this meditation. It's just an activity of paying attention of your sight. That's what they're doing. They're activating their sight in order they should be better people because they're paying attention. They want to awaken their heart. That's what they're doing.
Or they want to activate the heart of their employees.
The vision of the heart. Yeah, they have to be able to see more than others can see in order to activate. They have to motivate others. I mean, if a CEO is not effective in motivating others, he won't be able to survive. So he has to have a vision in his heart to what other people need. So a CEO really is an educator. It's just it's of a company and not of a family. So yes. So this also makes a provider, a person who's a provider. That's what Yosef is, a provider for the food of the entire world. And he did it in an intelligent way. He knew how to deliver the food. He knew how to store it. He knew what to tell the people. He knew when to be strict, when to be kind. He knew the rules, right? How does one figure that out? Well, he's your side. That's what he does.
So how does this affect it in one's ability to provide in practical terms?
Well, since God, it's Yesod, is the deliverer, right? So when a person connects to the Yesod, they become a vessel where God trusts that this guy will not squander the money and be able to deliver properly. So then God sees the person as a vessel and gives him blessing. Yesod brings down blessing.
Uh-huh. So give a practical example. I mean, because we have a practical example in the child raising, a practical example of writing a letter. So what about in Parnassa, being a provider? What would a person do?
Write down the data. That's what Yosef. It says Yosef was an accountant. He measured everything. He was an accountant in Potiphar's house. It says that Yosef stayed home to do his malachte. The Targum Onkelos translates, and it says livdek kisvei, to check the cheshbonin or something, the books of accounting. His job was to check the accounts to make sure that the resources were given out appropriately to each thing. So if you want to be successful as a deliverer, you got to get data on what's going on, how you're spending your money, how's money coming in, and then once you have that information attached to that information, instead of it being a fog, then you can say, hey, what if I put a little more effort into this and a little less effort into that? Will that make me more effective? What if I can make work another 15 minutes tomorrow, and I know I'm going to achieve that another number, and by doing this for 4 days in a row, it's going to give me a different number. And then with those resources, I'm going to be able to do 1, 2, 2, and 3, which I couldn't do before. That's basically an attachment, a intimate attachment to what's going on, to the data. Where is everything going? Where are the resources going? But mainly, how am I creating new resources? That's always much more important. Where am I most effective, right? Data. Where am I most effective? Who are my best customers? What if I put more effort into the high ticket customers and drop the low ticket what's going to happen, right? That's an attachment to the data, to the numbers, and then he automatically becomes a bigger channel blessing. I'll give you another practical one. Immediately separating MISA, right? Immediately separating MISA, getting the accountant to separate in MISA a tenth into another account.
And you're paying attention to the numbers.
And you're paying attention to the numbers, and that brings more blessing. Like the Kawasaki teacher, the money teacher, Kawasaki, Japanese guy, he says at the end of one of his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, he says, "Is there anything you take from my book is the idea of tithing." And I heard that also from an accountant. He says, "I don't know how, but when people tithe, things just start to work out."
Okay.
And it's a challenge because people think I need to be productive, I need to be productive. But when you're doing the numbers, the data, you're not being productive. Well, but it's something that needs to be done to be able to plan for the future, to be more, to be more successful. I'm gonna give you another example from the Rockefeller took over the oil industry through superior accounting. His main thing was that he looked at every number and say, well, how can we get the most out of this dollar, out of this dollar, out of this dollar? And then he would just show the books to other owners, and they say, well, we can't compete, and they would sell to him. And once he got the ball rolling, he was able to take over the entire industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like the Rebbe Marash. The Rebbe brings down that it's not our custom to fast nowadays, but extra fast. People used to do extra fast, but the Rebbe says the fast that we would do is a fast from speaking, a 15-minute fast from speaking.
Mm-hmm. To promote that.
Plimius, that would be like a plimius, he said, yeah. To think about oneself. That's where they are, where they should be. Are they fooling themselves? In what areas are they fooling? In what areas are they successful? What should I repeat? Do more? What What if I did this? What would happen? Making such an account. And of course, connecting all the way back to the essence of God. Person's full potential. Yeah.
Wow, thank you, Rabbi Chirek. Beautiful. Sure, people are gonna appreciate this.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good Shabbos. Have a good week. Oh, let's say something to Terra.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna I'll start here. And then you want to join in and say something? I'm gonna speak with the Shabbos HaGadol. And the Alter brings in Shulchan Aruch.
No, I'm gonna listen.
Okay.
Didn't prepare anything.